You don't need such a big apartment. You don't have a husband or kids. My mother said that, in front of everyone. At my 30th birthday party, the one I'd prepared with nervous excitement, hoping that, for at least 1 year, I could celebrate with family without the weight of pressure or expectations hanging over me. But no, it was the same old familiarity. I was the single daughter, the one no one needed to worry about, and therefore the one with no right to want anything for herself. The party took place in my mother's living room. Warm yellow lights, a table full of my favorite dishes. Everyone was laughing and talking, with Lily, my 7 months pregnant younger sister, constantly being fussed over. I didn't complain. I'd never been the center of attention. But then, like a premeditated verdict, my mother stood up mid-party, raised her glass, and said with a smile, "It's time for Min to show her love for the family. That apartment is too big for one person. Lily's about to give birth. She needs a spacious home." I froze, looking at my mother, then at my father, who only nodded slightly. No hesitation. No one asked if I agreed. I tried to stay calm, gently setting my plate down. I asked softly, "Are you asking me to give the apartment I worked nearly 10 years to buy to Lily? What else are you going to do with it? You don't have anyone to need all that space," she replied matter-of-factly, as if my being unmarried was reason enough to strip me of my achievements. And when I, using every ounce of strength to keep my voice steady, refused that absurd request, my mother said nothing more. She just picked up the birthday cake, the one with my name written in pink frosting, and threw it straight at my face. The cake shattered, frosting clinging to my hair and collar. The room went silent. I vividly remember the cold sting of the frosting on my face, mingling with the burning heat down my spine, not because the act hurt physically, but because it confirmed that I'd never truly been seen as a respected part of this family. No one spoke up for me. Relatives looked down, gave awkward smiles. Some turned away. No one said, "Min, you have the right to keep what you earned." No one. And I stood up, calmly, wiped my face with a napkin, and walked out of that house like someone with nothing left to lose. I started working at 22. No startup fund for my daughter like Lily got. No one bought me a car for convenience. No one helped with tuition or rent. I graduated and began with an ordinary desk job, pinching every penny, eating homemade sandwiches for lunch, wearing the same coat through multiple winters, skipping vacations for extra hours. Every small saving was like collecting bricks for a home, my home. I didn't dream of wealth. I just wanted freedom in a space I created, owing no one, indebted to no one. That apartment, worth over $320,000, wasn't a luxury to me. It was a dream built with sweat and self-denial, from new shoes to spa days friends invited me to. It was proof that I, a girl raised in a family that didn't value independence, could stand on her own 2 feet. But to my parents, I was just the single daughter, someone with no big responsibilities, a shadow that could be sacrificed. Lily was different. Lily was always more pitiful. Even as a child, she was favored, despite being mischievous and mediocre in school. My parents always said, "She's sensitive." I had to give up toys, time, even attention. When I earned a college scholarship, my mother only said, "The school probably needed good numbers." But when Lily got into a private college, my mother called relatives as if she'd won an international gold medal. Lily's tuition was fully covered. My father bought her a brand new car at 20, while I biked to work every morning. When she was jobless, my parents took her in, covered her expenses, paid off her credit card debt. And now, with Lily pregnant, I was suddenly expected to sacrifice. You don't have your own family. You're the older sister. You're better off, so sharing a little won't hurt. They never asked what I'd given up to achieve what I have. I don't have kids, but I have dreams. I don't have a husband, but I have worth. Doesn't that deserve respect? I started to realize, in my family, hard work wasn't valued as much as dependency. The weaker someone was, the more they were coddled. But someone like me, who stood on her own, was expected to give. As if success was a crime, one I had to pay for with unreciprocated sacrifice. I left that party without a word. No tears. No anger. Just the sound of my shoes hitting the cold floor. echoing clearly in a room full of complicit silence. The birthday cake, meant to symbolize family and joy, now dripped down my collar like a humiliating declaration from the mother who gave birth to me. And then I understood. In this family, I'd never been seen as a person. I was a tool to serve, to give, to be the strong one. Back at my apartment, I didn't turn on the light. I sat in the dark, where only the hum of the air conditioner and my uneven breathing filled the space. I looked around, at every tile, every window frame, every chair I'd agonized over for months before buying. This was my effort. Not luck, not a gift, but 10 years of working from dawn to midnight, no days off, no holidays, no one covering my rent, no one paying my medical bills when I fell ill. I remember sleepless nights freelancing, meals of instant noodles instead of proper dinners, skipping new clothes to save an extra $50. And now they said I didn't deserve to keep my achievement just because I wasn't married? No child had ever made me feel as lonely as being robbed by my own parents. I knew what I had to do. Not because I wanted to fight, but because I couldn't keep sitting still and letting others define my worth. The next morning, in the pale sunlight filtering through my curtains, I picked up the phone and called Mr. Jenkins, my lawyer. He was over 60, had worked with my family years ago, but always stood on the side of reason. He heard my voice and, without prying, said gently, "I'm listening, Min." I told him everything, step by step, from how I quietly cared for my grandmother in her final year, when she was too weak to sit up on her own, to how Lily vanished for study abroad in Europe, posting photos of her new boyfriend on Instagram. I described the nights I massaged my grandmother's feet, bought her medicine, fixed leaky pipes, and in the end, single-handedly signed the legal papers to keep the house from being foreclosed. That house, co-owned by me and Lily, but maintained solely by me. "I want to request the sale of that inherited house," I said, each word steady, unshaken. "And I want the division to reflect the truth that I've been the only one preserving it all these years." Mr. Jenkins paused for a few seconds, then replied slowly, "I understand. And this time, we won't compromise." That afternoon, I sat at my laptop, opening a new email. I didn't type with anger, I typed with clarity. No need to mention the cake thrown in my face or the averted gazes of relatives. I wrote briefly, but each sentence was a line they could no longer cross. "I don't owe anyone this apartment. It's my sweat and tears. If this family can't treat me with basic respect, I can't continue providing emotional or financial support. Being single doesn't mean I need less space. Nor does it mean Lily should be prioritized over me in everything. This is the last time I'll explain." I reread it a few times, then hit send. And then I waited. The response came faster than I expected, as if the whole family had been sitting by their screens, waiting for my defiance, only to leap into their familiar roles. My mother texted, "I didn't expect you to be so cold. Your sister's pregnant, and you're heartless enough to demand the house." My father called directly, "We're family, and you're putting a lawyer above blood, Min?" And Lily, as usual, sent a short, biting line, "You're choosing money over family." I didn't reply. Not a single line, no explanations. I was no longer obligated to play the good sister, a role they assigned me, then used as a stick to punish me whenever I dared say no. I wasn't angry. I was awake. I kept working with Mr. Jenkins. I gave him every receipt for roof repairs after the 2018 storm, the invoice for the new heater I bought during the winter my grandmother fell ill, the utility bills for the 3 years Lily didn't live there. I even kept my grandmother's handwritten notes, scribbled but full of love, thanking me for helping her eat dinner, for not letting her feel alone. And in that moment, I realized something no one had ever taught me. Clarity is a form of strength, a strength that doesn't need shouting, tears, or validation. Just the truth and self-respect. I was reclaiming my voice, and I knew, this time, I wouldn't back down. The appraisal process for my grandmother's house took nearly 3 weeks. I worked closely with the law firm, providing every maintenance receipt, property tax report, and repair invoice I'd paid over the years. My grandmother had told me in her final years, "This house is yours, Min, because you're the only one who stayed with me until the end." But when she passed, The legal papers listed both me and Lily because my mother wanted everything to be fair between the children. Fair? I gritted my teeth and accepted it then. But now, I was mature enough to understand. Fairness doesn't mean splitting evenly. Fairness means splitting justly. When the house was reappraised, valued at nearly $240,000, the lawyer sent a clear division document. I would receive 65% of the property's value, as evidence showed I was the only one maintaining it for nearly 9 years. The rest was Lily's, but she'd have to pay in cash if she wanted to keep her share. At that moment, the family was shaken. My uncle, who'd stayed silent at the birthday party, sent me a short message. Maybe I was wrong not to say anything that day. My cousin, the only one who didn't laugh at the party, invited me for coffee and said, "Min, you should have spoken up long ago. You've endured too much." But then, Lily came. No call, no text, no polite knock. She stood outside my apartment, ringing the bell relentlessly as if I owed her an explanation. I opened the door, keeping my voice calm. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and asked in a trembling voice, "Are you really cutting ties over a house? Over a few $100,000? I stayed silent for a few seconds, then replied, "No, Lily. I'm not choosing money. I'm choosing respect. Something I've never received from you or this family all these years." She froze, speechless, and for the first time, I saw in my sister's eyes not anger, but confusion. As if she'd never considered that I had the right to be hurt. That I, too, was my mother's daughter, someone who cried silently after every time I was deemed less deserving. She stammered something about her unborn child, the pressure, what mom wanted. But I didn't waver. I looked straight at my sister, not with blame or anger, just as a woman who'd stepped out from the shadow of appeasement. "Lily, I used to be the one ready to give you everything. But today, I'm the one daring to say no, and if that hurts you, it's the pain you need to grow." She left. I don't know if she cried on her way home, but I knew I was no longer the weak Min from before. I reorganized my apartment one autumn morning, the chill just enough to calm the heart, but sharp enough to make me feel clear. I was at a brand new beginning. No more of my mother calling me by Lily's name by mistake. No more just a suggestion text from relatives, urging me to sacrifice a little more. Now, my apartment wasn't just a place to sleep and eat, it was where I healed. I painted the walls pale blue, hung up paintings I'd always loved but thought it wasn't time for. I placed a reading chair by the window where every morning I could watch sunlight pour in and feel grateful for not giving up on myself in the darkest moment. I started writing in a journal again, something I'd abandoned at 24 when work consumed me. In those first pages, I didn't recount the pain, I wrote what I'd learned. Boundaries aren't a lack of love, they're how love avoids becoming chains. Being single doesn't make me lesser, it's what made me strong enough to say no. No one has the right to define me by my marital status, age, or the number of people I live with. I am a person with emotions, efforts, and my own worth. I have the right to choose what enters my space and soul. Months later, I saw some family members at a wedding. They looked at me warily. Some avoided me, others tried to act friendly as if nothing had happened. But I no longer felt bitter. I didn't need their understanding because, at last, I understood myself. Lily didn't speak to me during the event, but as I left, she stood by the parking lot. We looked at each other for a few seconds. She didn't apologize, and I didn't demand it. But her eyes said something. Part understanding, part regret, and a lot of silence. I smiled gently and said, "I hope you and the baby find happiness in your own way. And me, I'll be fine in my own way too." Then I walked away, carrying a strange sense of lightness. Because I knew, though I'd lost a noisy family, I'd found the true voice inside me, a voice that no longer needed approval or permission, just to be heard by myself. What would you do if your family turned on you for not sacrificing for your sibling? Have you ever been treated unfairly just because you're single?